Good morning. Hello. How's it going? We've reemerged. To another day of game dev. I don't have a ton of words. I'm a little tired, so we're just gonna kind of get cooking here. Hey, Leandro, how's it going? How are you doing this day? Let's kind of pick up where we left off yesterday, which was being upset about needing to get the type of our specific components so that we can calculate the size and know how many components we can fit in a given chunk. And the way we're going to do that ultimately is at some point we've kind of swapped all of the instances of component out with a component index. I don't think we need this component type, but maybe we do. We still have this I component, which actually isn't gonna, I actually don't know what we're gonna do with I component. We could have them implement their own get size. I guess that doesn't really matter. It's probably better to do it that way than have it on a utility class. Because then it at least gives something for the I component to do. I guess the I component should be able to be, should be equatable with other I components. It's probably a good idea. We're gonna essentially need like a map or a list. I guess it can be a list. A list of I components, which I don't love because that means we're essentially boxing. Because our I components are all structs, but like I don't know of another way to get a generic list of components, of different components, not just one kind of component, but of like varying components for this purpose. Yeah, I think this component struct is going to go away. Because it kind of loses its usefulness if it's all of a particular type. I don't necessarily need to do this here. Just be get size, a parameter list get size, right? So you can take this out. I think we're just going to end up putting this on our components. Does this need to be defined as static? Does it care? Unrelated, but how do you motivate yourself to work on gameplay? Well, you'll notice that we're not working on gameplay. Let's caveat that by saying we haven't worked on gameplay for a very long time in this game. So how do I motivate myself to work on gameplay? I don't know. I assume it's the same way I motivate myself to work on anything on this game, which is that I don't really have a to-do list. Like, I don't like explicit to-do lists. I like to sit down in front of the thing and see what the most obviously wrong piece of it is. Like, what is most obviously wrong that I most obviously need to work on? Like, what's the major blocker? Or like, what am I unhappy with the most? And that tends to just be what I work on. Which raises the, more general question, how do you motivate yourself to work on this stuff at all? Especially if it's not your main thing, your like day job or whatever. In which case I just, set aside dedicated time for it. Excuse me. That's how I do it. I just have time set aside for this. And I sit down and I do it, whether I want to or not. Because today's a good example where I'm tired, my back hurts, and I'm rather displeased in the just general affairs of things in the world at the moment. Domestic troubles. In domestic, I mean, our nation, the nation that I live in. But we're not going to talk about politics. We're just going to move on. Yeah. We're going to talk about game dev. That's nice discipline. It's really not. I mean, I appreciate the idea. The idea is nice discipline. My ability to stick to it has been questionable throughout most of my adult life. Like, I'm not a person of particular willpower. I'm the kind of person that really needs to, like, if I want to remove something from my routine, I have to, like, cut it out entirely. Like, I struggle with moderation and things like that. So I'm a very binary person. I have to, like, if I want to make time for something, I have to make dedicated time for it, not just like, I'll do it when I feel like it. All right. So I guess, yeah, the only really thing we can do is have this iComponent lookup table here. I think that's all we can really do. I kind of question this list of entity IDs because the index is going to be the point. I guess we want a different list. We want a dense list that's like the alive entities and then a lookup, a sparse lookup that actually uses the entity index. So yeah, I guess having a list of entity IDs is correct because they're actually not going to be stored by their index. We'll have to do an entity lookup. So what'll that be? That'll be like private read-only dictionary entity ID integer entity dense index. I don't know, maybe like that. Procrastination is your middle name? Yeah. I procrastinated through my entire, like, 20s. I'm only kind of getting my act together now. Alright, I guess we flesh out this iComponent deal. So it's going to have a size, and it also needs to have... I guess all that we really care about is its size, and it needs to be equatable. Equatable with other iComponents. Let's look at our position. So our position is equatable with an entity ID. We're going to change this to say it's an I component. Implement the missing members. You're assuming get size and I component is size in bytes? Yeah. Correct. It's because our chunks are all the same size. They're 16 KB. And so we need to, for whatever type we store in here, we need to figure out what type that is. Maybe we can just make the... No, we cannot. No, maybe we can. Maybe we just make the chunks type specific. As we declare the chunks in the collection, the collection knows what its component index is. We can make the collection the interface. Store this information there. No, we still probably need the I component. There's a few ways we could do this. So like we know what component we're trying to get when we add a component or get a component. Like we have our T. We have our type. We have our index. Do we actually need to look up the types? I mean, I guess having the I component is good so that the components can look at each other and be like, are we the same thing? We can already do that by just... I think we already captured that. Where do I want to do this? I feel like doing it on the component is probably the simplest thing. I could also do it on the collection or the chunk. We have a list of chunks. Can't I do that? Oh, it doesn't have a type parameter, but what if it did? chunk will only ever be full of a single type. You could do it like this. But how's your dev going, Leandro? Are you kind of hitting a wall somewhere in gameplay? Or are you like me and you're just distracted easily and are like off doing non-gameplay coding all the time? Does the memory really need to be a byte, or could it just be a T at this point? In which case we can just get rid of the cast. Like yourself got sidetracked? Yeah. But you have a deadline. She's not waiting forever. Oh, right. Trying to get back on track. That's tough. Yeah, yeah. Deadlines help. Deadlines help a lot. Like I'm like laser focused when I'm doing a jam. Well, relatively laser focused. I can still get sidetracked in a jam, but nothing helps more than a deadline. Okay, so we can have a collection of T. Includes a chunk of T. And it would be fine to store the collections as I collections. Because they're classes, we don't care about boxing or anything like that. Maybe it's better to do it down here. Probably still need to be able to get the component type from the index at some level. Like, I imagine a world where we need to do that. But we could minimize the amount, the extent to which we're doing that, which could be good. I think I like that. I think I like implementing an I collection, and then have a strongly typed collection, because we know what type of collection is when we create it. It never changes. It's only got one. I still don't love the name collection, but I can't think of a better one. That's not just like unhelpfully verbose, like chunks. I don't want to have both chunks singular and chunks plural, and have one be a struct and the other be like a class. I don't love that. So we'll stick with collection for now. So an I collection. What does an I collection specify? Much. It needs to be able to get the size of its component. Get type size instead of just get size. By the way, did you always use glasses? I could swear you didn't. No, on stream I'm probably always wearing glasses. Because on days that I'm streaming, I'm usually working in front of the computer for like 12 hours a day, and glasses are way better for that. So I normally wear glasses. I'll wear contacts sometimes, but only if I'm out and about, as like an encouragement to like stay away from the computer. Like go out and do things and be in the world. Yeah, get size of. But the problem is if you say, you know, collection.get size of, it's like, what do you mean? Like the size of the collection? I want to get the individual size of. So I could say like get component size. Probably the best thing to do. Yeah. Do I need to specify all of this stuff? Probably should. Okay, now do I put this after or before? Before? Okay, so how do I order this in a way that it doesn't hate it? Oh, is this fine? It's just unhappy about the members? Yeah, okay. It's an I collection where T is unmanaged. That's fine. That's what it is. This is gonna be... Oh, T1. What? No, it's just the same T. Oh, I don't need to define that then. I can just... We're already specifying that the T is where the T is. I don't need to do that again here. Okay. This is where we put this code. Turn size of t. That's fine. Seems fine. You can almost have max items. Well, max items per chunk actually is passed down to us. This is a thing that we need to determine. Okay, so this function can't... I could call this set items per chunk or max items per chunk. This is something that I need to set. But to set it, I need to know what the component size is. Maybe this is something that should just live on a utility. All right, how are we going to evaluate this on the archetype? So when we make a new archetype, we have composition. And we make a new composition. Why collections is okay, no, that's right. So the composition needs to know what the size of its components are, probably. Unless we just also store that somewhere. Component indices. We could also say component sizes. Or we could just look that up from the component indices. In which case, we don't really need to calculate it at that point. We need to calculate it once. Maybe that's how we do it. Maybe that's easier. Just have a list somewhere. Component sizes. When we, because we can, whenever we add a component, it'll get registered if it's not. We can record its size. Yeah, that probably is a... We still need to know the T so that we can reinterpret it correctly, but I think that's fine because we can initialize the chunk to that. We can specify which T the chunk is. The collection can also be specified, so we know what T it is. Composition really just needs the component indexes, the indices. Maybe we don't need these collections as much as I thought we did. I collection we maybe need. I don't know if I'm not sold on whether we need iComponent. You can rely on the systems to specify the types they work on and feed those in. Think we can do that? Think we can do that? So we'll go back to using this utility, I guess. We should still change this. We should say like okay, we don't need to get the size at this point because if we're passing a composition, we'll already have the size. Let's say that. So we would actually need this to be somewhere else. Composition.component indices. Is it easier to just... The alternative is to say component size is world dot... Oh. Get size component index. Something like that. Get size in bytes. Yeah, it's still not great, but to me, if you ask the size of a type, it only makes sense in terms of size in bytes. Public. Let's add a public integer get size. Integer component index. What's that? We're asking for the size of a component index. That component index has been registered. So we'll just have the sizes cached and we can just return that. And in this case, I don't mind not saying what it is because you pass the component index. So you know it's a component. We still need to get the type size, which we can do here when we try to add a component. This system isn't going to really support adding multiple components. I guess it could. It'll just break down into individual add component calls. Maybe we can do some efficiency there somewhere. All right, so here we do need to get the size if it's not registered. Probably have like a private like void register component. Component sizes dot add utility dot get size. Get size t. Okay, so we'll get the size when we register the component, and then we should never have to do it ever again. We're storing an I component. Well, we're storing a component that is an I component, but it has a definite type. So if we need to, we can get it out of that. Is there a better way to do this? Could we just do something like public static integer get size? Size of position. What are you unhappy about? Oh, we'll forget about this I component thing for a second. Position does not have a predefined size. Does it not? Oh, it can only be used in an unsafe context. That's fine. Probably not the way I'm supposed to do this. Can that really not be written just as unsafe size of position? I like single line stuff when I can do it. So does it have to say return? Who cares? I like playing with what it allows. Because I do like single line assignments, but I don't think it likes trying to declare unsafe and then doing it. So we could do it here. We could just have the position itself get its size. And that's at least a static. It's at least a static function, even if it's unsafe. Everything is unsafe. Yeah, if you really want to. Yeah, I don't mind the unsafe stuff because we're pretty confident that the position is always going to be unmanaged. I mean, it was nice the other way because it was enforcing it. I mean, I could specify. Oh no, I can't do that here. Oh, great. We have a collection that doesn't implement anything. I guess it could... Or, oops, this is the wrong one. I guess it could... The interface could implement an equatable. Component needs to be equatable. It also needs to be comparable. Because you need to be able to sort components, components. You've been doing with C# at work recently. You can't get used to the brace style. Yeah, the C# brace style is a little weird, but I don't mind it. You mean the almond style here? I kind of prefer it. I kind of go with the flow on that stuff. Like when I'm doing like JavaScript style stuff, I usually use the other brace style because it seems to be the default for whatever the environment that I'm working in, but I think I prefer the almond style because it lets you see the beginning and the end of the scope a little bit more clearly than when it's over here. I also, maybe, I mean, this is fine, but I also don't like how a lot of IDEs, like especially Writer, does this. Like the way this line renders and it just gets cut off by the start of this text. But when I new line this, it still looks bad, but at least then the line is drawn between two braces. Like two brackets. Like, I like that better. But that's just like a simple aesthetic thing. And it actually doesn't look very good when you scrutinize it much anyway. So, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. Weird stuff. No perfect solution. Yeah, true. I mean, I think we all know the perfect solution, which is to just GD script it and to just not have braces of any kind. Just raw dog those tabs out here. I think this is the perfect solution. Except when you're like me and you hate super long lines, so you end up like moving them down and then tabbing them in multiple levels and they just look weird. Doesn't like that as much. That's not as friendly to do in this kind of a system. You don't have anything against GDScript, to be honest? Yeah, I don't either. You don't mind really long lines? Oh, you have an ultra wide, that's why. I don't. I have this regular, I mean, it's a huge monitor, but it's still just a regular aspect ratio. And I'm also taking up like a quarter of the screen over here, so I don't want the lines to like go past my head for streaming reasons as well. I also like really big text. Like you'll notice that the text I have is like kind of huge. Otherwise I get eye strain. Crank that limit to 200 characters. No, not me. I mean, I think 80 is a little harsh, but like 100, 120 is fine. I probably go low in terms of what most people like to do. Which is a real conflict with the fact that I like to name my variables like super long things. I like to be super clear about my variables. And so it makes it really hard to express any thoughts succinctly because like you just like have these really verbose variable names that just go on and you're trying to like string this statement together. Okay, so it's not gonna be world.getSize. So component size here is literally just gonna be Oh, it's world.getSize. Why doesn't this work? Make method getSize static. Oh, do I need to say game.world? Yeah, I do. Okay. All right, this is fine. So we'll figure out what the size of the largest component is, and then we'll specify that max items per chunk is size is what's the best way to represent 16 kilobytes? 16,384. That's how many bytes it is. 16,384 divided by size of largest component. This should probably be a constant. Make this like a static here somewhere. Public static integer max chunk size. Oh, I got Marshall size of. I wonder how that's different. Oh, that'll give me the size of the actual thing. Yeah, I don't need that. I want just the size of... max size. And byte size. That's kind of punny, but it does communicate what I want. Byte size. Page size. Byte size is really stupid. But it's funny, and I think it does communicate what I want. Chunk.byte size. I don't use that nomenclature anywhere else, though. I don't say, like, size in bytes or anything like that. I could say component byte size. I think max size is fine. I don't want to confuse it with max count. Like the maximum count of the byte. Page actually would convey something like a memory allocator. That's true, that's true, that's true. That is true. But it's a static integer, so always just say chunk dot maximum size. Yeah, I guess it loses the context. Byte size is good enough for me because I know that chunks are allocated to predetermined amounts. I could also declare a constant that's just like kibibyte. Make it private and add the description to the getter. That's too good, you know. That's like way too, it's too good for us. Oh, it's 16 kibibytes, not kibibyte. 16 kibibytes. So kibibyte would be 12. Yeah, who cares? Who cares? This is good enough. So we're just gonna say chunk dot max size. I mean, I could make it a constant, I guess, but is this not working? Oh, I didn't call it max size, I called it byte size. Why can't I? Oh shoot, we need to know the type? Oh, we do need to know the type. We can't put this here. Oops. To invoke chunk, we can't do that there. Whatever. I'm hoping I get this math right. I thought it was 16384, but let me double check that. Yeah, it is. Okay. Max bytes per chunk. There we go. That's a compromise. It's horribly verbose, but it communicates the thing. Yeah, the only doc I need is Twitch VOD. Yeah, we don't need to document anything. Tears from Enomoth. I think this is why we don't see Cubis around here very much either now. I think everything I do like offends his sensibilities. I'm the offensive programmer. So this is an I collection. This is a chunk of entity IDs. We got ads. We're in some ads. So it seems in the last couple of days, YouTube has decided to stop recommending my my streams to people, which, you know, I don't blame them. We're doing some pretty boring work right now. I guess you live by the algorithm, you die by the algorithm. Have to drop some senseless meetings. Good luck. Goodbye, Leandro. Good luck in the meetings. May none of the work fall to you. Put that on the utility script in case anyone else needs to know that. Hey, Symbol. How's it going? How are you doing? Congratulations on first in creativity for the spooky jam, the spooky solo dev jam. That's awesome. I haven't gotten to play your game, but I would like to at some point. That's very exciting. You didn't expect anything since your theme was flipped? Oh, you flipped the theme. That'll do it, I guess. I feel like interpreting theme in jams is like a very contentious topic. I feel like people are very quick to be like, oh, this violates my expectations. It's terrible. And then other people are like, wow, you violated my expectations. You're a genius. Oh, hey, Scott. How's it going? How are you doing? Not doing this anymore. You mean the theme was fight the dark, and you play as the dark and fight the light? Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. We don't need to be passing in the item type anymore. We've got our current count. That's all we really need there. Get rid of this. I call this buffer. I don't know what it is anyway. I can get rid of these, huh? Oh, not if I want to specify that they're private. Oh, what happened here? Oh, okay. I can also replace this with a primary. So is this private? How do you know that? I don't understand the primary constructor. I make sure that the buffer can't be directly accessed. Yeah, if I do that, is this private now? It just says parameter. Public read-only struct. well, that's the type. We know that. I don't know. I don't know about that. Doing not too bad. Just chewing through a bunch of smaller projects for work. Nice. I'll keep this for a minute, even if the system doesn't really like it. Chunk, byte, buffer. We need some functions for adding. Well, no, we don't, because these are read-only structs. The collection will need a process for adding things to the buffer, or, you know, assigning things into the buffer. Okay, who cares? All right, what were we doing? I don't even remember. Were you even yeah, we are using this. Okay. All right. We're getting focused. We're changing the way we organize some of our stuff here. So this max items per chunk thing, we're storing that. We're happy with that. So when we are making a new archetype, we get our composition, we get our index. Our collections is a new I collection. That's the length of the composition's component indices. Is there more information that we could stuff into a composition other than just a list of indices? I mean, we could, but do we want to? Why is this a struct? It should be a class. Probably. Doesn't need to be a struct. I guess it doesn't need to be a class either. It's not really doing anything. I'm not super happy with compositions, but we're using it for a lot of functionality here. Like we're going to assign, we have some functions here. So we can add a component to a composition. We can remove a component from a composition. If we remove a component from a composition, do we need to do any size recalculations? Probably. But we don't need to do those here because this doesn't know its own size. There's an argument to be made where a composition should know its own size, but to me a composition is almost like a type signature. Like it's just the unique signature of this collection of components, of which there should only be one. So that's all fine. So we get our size of the largest component. We calculate this. Component size of the game world.get size. So we just get the size. So world.get size of the component for the component index, which is great. We should probably have a check here if we try to build an archetype with a component that hasn't been registered yet, but We could avoid doing that for now, honestly. Hey, Fox Shadow. How's it going? Been loving your devlogs lately. You're always like, this is really early and it's unfinished and like, you know, there's a lot left to do. And then I look at the thing that you're showing off and it looks so good. It looks polished. It looks functional. Like, I get the feeling. I understand the feeling that you're communicating when you say stuff like that, but like, your stuff is awesome. I love this greeting with like a cup of coffee thing here. Here, cheers to you. My coffee's dying. It's getting like that lukewarm where it's like still drinkable, but it's like, All right, so when we create an archetype, we already have our composition that we want to use to create it. Yeah, I feel like well, we only need the composition once and we only make the archetype once. I had this previous vision where like an archetype should come and go if you ran, like if you deleted all of the entities that made up an archetype, you'd delete the archetype. But like, I don't really want to do that because you would need to manage some stuff that would not be happy. You need to manage a lot more stuff. So I think I'm just going to keep the archetypes around. So we're only going to need to make a new archetype when we make a new composition. And it's not going to be the case of like you make archetypes out of a composition when you need it. Like over and over again, like you add and delete them. You just make them once and then you keep the archetype around. And like maybe it's empty and we'll have a catch so that the querying system isn't just spending all this time. That's the only concern, is that then the query system would check every archetype. But there's only going to be so many archetypes. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's barely functional. Bubblegum and duct tape holding it together. I need to reduce the latency on my YouTube stream, I think. I can do it. I don't do it currently. But I think it's an option. Might be chat latency and not stream. Well, I guess it's the same thing. I don't see how to do it. I'm gonna look into that. Sometimes my latency feels pretty high. Isn't that the majority of what development is? Bubblegum and duct tape and smoke and mirrors? Yeah, pretty much. All right, so we've got this register component function, which is going to do the thing where we add it to our list of components. We get the size and cache that. Oh, I was thinking about doing it this way too, though. Where we just... So I did this, and I put it on the component, or the position. Oh, I wasn't going to do that because I couldn't get the I component to register that. Not that I need it to. And I think it's harder to say t dot like get size. Yeah, I don't think we need this. That's not the way to do it. No. So an I component. What is this? How would I do this? Right. So we're gonna have an equals t other, where t is an I component. So I guess we should just enforce that I component has a entity ID. I call it entity ID. Yeah. Oh, we can't specify the existence of fields, just methods. It's weird. Oh, I can't do this. I can say if other. How do I do this? I've done this before. Is it? This is your first real rodeo on game dev? Oh, yeah. Because it doesn't need to be. It's just as good as the appearance, right? That's why I like coding. Because, I mean, it's obviously embarrassing writing code in front of people for me. But, like, the end user, as long as my code works, they don't care what it looks like. They just care how it behaves. Games are like that. Games are behavior and experiences. So, like, you can fake a lot. I don't remember how I got this part to work previously. A way to look at the history of this file. I feel like there is. I don't want to look at a file that doesn't exist anymore, is the thing about it. Is the problem, actually. I don't know if the game will like that. Earning a ton, though. Oh, you're cheating a bit because you're basing it completely on another game, standing on the shoulders of actual devs. No, I think that's fine. I don't think there's a problem with that. Is that? I got rid of my concept of like doing this through an interface, and now I don't remember how to do it in a way that avoids the thing I'm trying to avoid. Who cares? Learning a ton though. This stuff is wizardry. I mean, it's wizardry to me. I like hardly understand what I'm doing. I'm just feeling about in the dark half the time. Like I know what I want to do, but I'm not familiar enough with C# yet to know how to do it. Scott, you're the lead developer at a small agency, and even there, the only people that care about that stuff is the developers. People that fill the other roles at your company, your clients, and their customers only care about the end result and how much it costs them. Yeah, exactly. There are programmers that care about programming for the craft of it, right? And I'm not even one of those. I would not even claim to be one of those people. I guess what we do is we just return other position. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't want to do that right now. Who cares? There's going to be boxing. Who cares? Return other is not null. And other is position. Turn other is position. Oh, actually what we should do is if other is position, I don't know. I don't know why I even want the eye components to be comparable with each other. Or not comparable, equatable. I'm not even going to support that right now. I don't need to support that at the moment. It's literally just a label so that I can put them in a generic list for now, even though I don't even know what I'm going to use this generic list for. You're one of those, Scott, you're one of those people with your personal projects. When it comes to things that you're building for others, it's just whatever is the most efficient to get it done. It won't cause headaches later. Fox wants to know if, Scott, as a lead dev, your day typically involves coding components and stuff, or it's more meetings or oversight. I assume the lead part means it's a lot of meetings and oversight. Yeah, I'm similar with my day job where I just put in, I mean, I like to code stuff well, but I'm on like the first version of a lot of different projects at work. And the first version for me is like very rough. It is like not good. It is like, they're like monolith classes that do like everything. And like, I haven't decoupled stuff or like refactored anything. And it's like, it's just like, get it to work. Because once it's working, people are going to be like, I want it to do this instead, or I want it to do this or that, or like, we need to add this functionality. And it's like, you don't really have a vision for what something needs to be until it already exists, I think, in a lot of ways. Depending, if it's something that people use, it's like really hard to design it all up front, I find. And games is very similar like that. Like, you have to find the fun. And you can have an idea of what the fun is going to be, but unless you're like incredibly experienced, you're probably wrong. Unless you're trying to make something you've already made before, you're probably wrong. All right, so let's get back on track. So when we add a component, we go through this process to figure out if the component exists. If it doesn't exist, so here we look at we go to the component graph edges and we try to get out a value for this component index. And if we get that value, but that particular edge isn't filled, like maybe we only removed a component for that, then we add the component. We make a new archetype. We need to go through a process where we look. Okay, so here we make a composition and we try to find this composition. And if we do not find, or if we find it and it's not exactly what we want, we do this here. So this is for a composition. I guess what we want to do when we're adding a component is we do a really early check here. Let's just immediately do a check, and we'll just say if components, if not components, components dot contains this component index, or what am I even storing in here? The I component? Oh, we need a dictionary. We need another dictionary. Component index integer. It's not an index, is it? It's an ID, because this is a dense list of components. What's the diff between lead dev versus a normal dev? Scott says about 2/3 of their day is programming. Most new programming jobs get handed to you, and you delegate to your team as needed and manage your development resources. You communicate with the client, IT, etc. You're most in the web dev world, but you also build various apps and tools. Very cool. Okay, so here's my conundrum, which is what we have to decide how we want to handle this. So we have a list of components. I question this whole this list, this I component list here. We do need a list of component sizes. We don't need much else. We do need to register all of our components, and our components are all hard-coded. They're things like this, like position and stuff like that. So the easy thing to do, or not the easy thing, but like the lazy initialization technique would be to register components as you use them and give them an ID or give them an index. So they don't have an index until they get registered. Which is tough, because the index is how you identify them. So I'm tempted to just assign an ID number to all the components when I write a component. And that number is static, so like all positions will have a component ID of like 1 or 2, whatever. And so in that sense, we could just... But the problem is if you're registering them arbitrarily, then you need a sparse list and a dense list, because you have the dense list of their actual indexes in terms of like the order in which they were registered. And you have another map, which is like their actual internal IDs. They're like static ID numbers for their given type. And so the lazy thing to do is to just do that and to have this multi-step lookup where you look up a component ID to get its index. I don't love that. But the alternative is to basically pre-register all possible components that are used, which is not great either, because it'll just be this huge list that we go through. I think a lazy initialization there is fine. I'm going to try to get away with not having this list of components. We're going to have a list of component sizes, which we arguably don't need. If there's only one characteristic we care about for the component, it can all just be straight up a dictionary, which, I mean, we're still concerned about hash collisions or whatever. So we have this component index thing that we're passing around, and I think that's not what we want. I think we want an actual ID. I don't know. So when you add a component, you are passing in its index already. So you know what this is. So the component itself needs to know this thing. Okay, yeah, let's do it that way. So instead of just a component index, we also have a component ID. I don't like that difference, but I think that's fine. I think it's the best that we can do for what we want to do here. So component ID, where's our component index? We're basically just, oh, we can put it in here in the component list. Basically this. I'm making a struct here just so that I'm not just passing raw integers around and not knowing what the fuck I'm doing. So that's why I'm making structs that consist of just like a single value. And I'll add some additional stuff like some of these things like the IDs. Oof. The IDs we need to be able to compare, because the IDs are going to be what determines the sorting. I don't love this. I might actually get rid of component index. Just use only the ID as a, you know, as a unique type or whatever. Because a component is going to know what its ID is. It's not necessarily going to know what its index is. Because its index is just where it was registered, so we'll need a lookup. I mean, or we can just have it be a straight up dictionary. Like, we don't actually need the index. If the only thing we're storing is some component info, which we could just have a component info struct. I mean, we could put a lot of this info on the... Geez, there's so many ways to do this. We could just pass the component, and the component could have a lot of this info on itself, especially if it's info that's not instance specific. There's a bunch of ways we could do this. I mean, I get kind of overwhelmed by the variety of options. Got time though. We got time. So what is the world in which I specify maybe a bunch of different functions here on the I component? So an I component would need things like, so an I component would be what are you making? Tornino? Hey, how's it going? Let me try to show you. Let me get rid of all of these. Components. Let me get rid of some of the things so I can actually run the thing. Just, oh, I component. Hey, BrainZap. Good work, Steve. All right, so there's the bugs gone. So we're trying to work on an FTL-like, a kind of isometric FTL-like. I'm kind of bogged down right now in an ECS that I'm trying to make. But we're trying to make this Star Trek style game, and at the moment we've really just got a set of tools, a very limited set of tools, because we're trying to be able to build starships. So we've been really just building tools. Like we built an auto tiler, we built like kind of a flood fill compartmentalization system. So I can make ships here. I tend to always make the same kind of shapes when I'm doing these demos. It's kind of interesting. But we're going to be making these three-dimensional starship designs. This is just like a flying housing block. It doesn't have a lot of variety to what I can make yet, but we need a lot more building types. You started learning GD script? Wow, that's cool. I appreciate that. It's a custom auto tiler that we're using in Godot 4.3 so that we can do these isometric, make these layered isometric things. So we've gotten a little bit of sidetracked. We've just switched over to going into C# for our game simulation layer stuff. So this is all running in purely GD script right now because this was like a prototype, but we're refactoring things right now to run more in C#. That's cool. You just started learning GD script. What kind of stuff are you working on? Like tutorials and stuff like that? Or is there a specific game that you're like, I gotta make this, and that's like why you picked up Godot? Both are good. Both are good answers. There's no bad answers. I should specify. There's no wrong way to approach learning Godot, I think. Whether you're just doing tutorials, if that's the thing you want to do and you want to learn how different systems work, or if you're like, I need to make this game and I only am going to learn the things that I need to make this game. Or even just messing around. I don't know. All right, so we might be backing ourselves into a corner here, the way we're doing this, but I'm okay with it right now. So we're gonna have a dictionary. You're gonna plug in a component ID, and you're gonna get back component index. We're gonna call it component dense index. So we take the component ID, which is the sparse index, and we get the component index, which is the dense index. So we get a sparse ID and a dense and an index into the dense list. We should probably also store, so instead of this, let's store component IDs. Private read-only list component ID. We might end up unifying, just having a single list that's like component. We might go back to this thing where's our component? Where's our component by itself? This thing. So this has like an index in a T type. We can't have a list of this because it would have to be a specific type, but we could get rid of this type thing. We could have like index size, whatever else we want. Can't make any games yet. Are you using GDScript and C#? Yeah, I'm using both for different reasons, for different purposes. Any tips on focusing on Godot other than playing games? It depends. I have the fastest way that I've found to learn how to do Godot stuff is to just do jams. Once you feel like you have like a basic competency, like I like doing game jams. I only got to do a couple this year. I can show you my last one. Just to show you, like I made a simple one in 2D at the beginning of this year, and then at the end of summer I ended up doing a 3D Godot game in 3 days, 1 day for each dimension. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out here. And this is all assets. It's all art assets. Like I didn't make any of these art assets. I just grabbed a bunch of free art assets and threw them into Godot and just made this game in 3 days. Like just, I guess don't get preoccupied with like making everything. Just make the stuff that you can't find And then over time, you'll get better and better at making different parts. So like I can't make 3D art really, but I learned a bit about editing 3D art because I pulled all these free art packs and I spent time, oh God, I spent time, you know, fixing them a little bit with some help from some advice from people who know more about like Blender and stuff. They gave me some tips. So I ended up learning about 3D, even though I can't really do 3D, but I only had to engage with it a little bit. And I got to learn a bunch of other stuff. Like I got to learn about the Godot physics. I learned more about viewports, which is how I'm getting this PS1 aesthetic, kind of like low res aesthetic. I learned about a bunch of built-in Godot nodes. So like I did the car traffic myself, and then someone was like, you do know that like there's a path node, right, in Godot that can just do that stuff for you, and I ended up using that for like the pedestrians. I'm glad I did my own system for the cars because I needed stop and go traffic and stuff like that. This looks nothing like FTL. No, this was the last game jam I did. I'm just talking to Tort about how to like learn Godot, and this was my process, which is to just kind of pick a vision, get as much pre-made stuff as I can, and then just and then bother to learn the few things that I wasn't able to get pre-made. You know, in this case, it was like the art and the sound and everything was like pre-made, and there were a lot of stuff like the vehicle body stuff that controls this car were kind of a pain to set up, but it's using a Godot node. It's using the vehicle body 3D. So I get a lot of stuff for free, and I got to learn how this node works. Fox is just messing with me. Don't worry about it too much. But yeah, that's my advice, Vita. Like, pick some like low stress learning environments where you have a definite goal. Like, make a game that's like following this theme. You have like 2 weeks to do it, or something like that, or a month. Or I like short. I like short game jams. I like 2 or 3 day game jams because it really stresses me out. But I've also been doing this for a long time, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend, you know, starting out with something like that. Hey, Symbol, yeah, you know this game. This is the game I trot out to tell people, to show people that I do know how to make games, even though I just sit here in the IDE just muttering to myself about entity component systems. That's the problem when you try to build a big framework like this. You don't have anything that's visible or demonstrable for a long time, and that's kind of stressful. Oh, I gotta turn the music back on. When you're better at GDScript, you'll try game jams. Yeah, then until then, just... Where did my web browser go? Just go through the Godot docs. Has some good tutorials built in. I'd go through these. I mean, I read the whole docs because that's how I like to learn. Like, I read the whole manual. But in the getting started section of the Godot docs, which I'll link, there's a 2D tutorial game that's really good. There's a 3D tutorial game that I didn't do, but I think it's a lot more involved. Did I do this one? I did a 3D tutorial. There's some really good are there any other tutorials here? Tutorials and resources. There's some really good tutorials as well. Yeah, some additional tutorials. Yeah, highly recommend just go through some of those. Where's the person I'm talking to? YouTube? Yeah, they're on YouTube. They're not just in my head, Symbol, I swear. They're a real person that I'm having an interaction with. You think my stream is delayed? My stream is tremendously delayed. I want to look at how to reduce the latency, but some of that is inherent. Some of that is just inherent with streaming. But yeah, I think I can try to reduce that. I'm gonna work on it. I'm using low latency streaming on Twitch because I knew where the button was that enabled that. I don't know where the button is that enables that on YouTube, but I'm gonna go find it. Yeah, I'm not sure where it is, but I'm gonna figure it out. Cause yeah, I would like to have a more direct conversation. You were assuming they existed, just curious where. yeah, I multi-stream. Which I kind of originally did just for a low effort archive system. Oh yeah, no, I can't do it now, Fox. I know that. I just don't know where it is, so I think it's in the I think I know what window might have it now, but yeah, I can only access that when the stream's offline. You're currently using a channel, Godot on YouTube to learn. You made like an interactive thing? Hell yeah. Also, Brackies. Go check out Brackies. Brackies just came back. How do you spell Brackies? Like, not Brackies. Is it Brackies? Yeah, Brackies. Definitely check out Brackies. They just came back and they started doing Godot tutorials. I don't think they have a lot up yet, but I think that's definitely a place to watch. Their Unity tutorials were great back in the day. Potato passing by. Hey, what's this? Does FTL refer to fast and light? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Potato passing by. Thanks for passing by. We're making kind of like an isometric, pseudo-isometric, more side-on kind of FTL-like, where you have a ship and it consists of like multiple levels. So it's like the 3D chess version of FTL, where you're going to have a little bit more three-dimensional complexity to your ship designs into like managing your crew movements and like power distributions and stuff. That's kind of the direction we're headed. We're kind of bogged down in some code framework stuff right now, but that's where we want to go. Godot is amazing. Their recent transform vector video is so helpful. Oh yeah, anyone who has a good video on vectors and matrices is great. I like the 3B1B matrix videos. I watch the vector and matrix videos. I watch those sometimes when I need to remember how matrices work. Looking good so far. Keep it up. Thank you. Thank you for passing by. I didn't even show you the main thing we have, which is currently it's just an auto tiling tool for building ships. So we can build these. We can start building these ships out. It's really primitive right now, but it accomplishes the basic goal. So we're working on some refactoring, making that more advanced in the future. If I'm questioning your username, you just thought of a random word. I wasn't. Tornino is a pretty funny name. Nice. You really like the clean lines. Yeah, that's 90% of what the auto tiler is doing is just making sure we just have clean lines on just the outside. Making sure like homogeneous textures are not like, you know, are look like single big blocks. All right. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I was changing how this works. So we're going to store the component size and the component ID. Maybe I'll make a component type struct and it'll just have that information on it, like component ID, component size. And then we don't have multiple lists. I like having a list, a dictionary that points to a list, because we can take the dictionary, point to the list, check the list at that index to make sure that the ID matches the key. And that's like that's a simple defense against hash collisions, potentially. Because we can confirm that it's the same ID at the index as the ID that we use to key into the dictionary. So that's good. I'm always worried about hash collisions, especially when we're using just simple things like small digit numbers to key into the dictionary. If you're gonna release this game, what are you gonna release it on? It's gonna be PC and Steam Deck. So like, yeah, that's where I'm gonna start. And you know, if it's successful, I'm targeting the Steam Deck just so I have like native console controls, native controller support. Because I want the controller support to be good from the beginning. Because if the controller support's good, eventually getting onto a console would be pretty easy. I don't know if a tactics game is like the best fit for consoles, but I want to, at least from a design standpoint, support it. But mostly the focus is going to be like desktop, PC, and Steam Deck. What am I doing? Oh yeah, so we're dealing with the fact that we have a component ID now. And that component ID is going to be defined on the specific here. So like, so entity ID passed in. So this is going to be a static. So public static component ID, component ID. New. Here's our big problem, which if I'm gonna need a list somewhere. I should maintain a list here. I'm gonna do this in Obsidian. I'm gonna list component IDs, and it's just gonna be a mapping of component IDs. It's gonna be like position is 1. Maybe I'll do it here. Maybe I'll say position. And we can say like 002 direction. Because I need to keep track of these somewhere or I'm going to lose my mind. If we're hard coding these, which I think we need to. I'm gonna need the components to be able to equate to each other. I'm also gonna need them to be able to be comparable. I guess I can just make the component ID itself comparable. So grab this, grab that. So these need to be comparable. Are we going to sort by ID or are we going to sort by index? I guess we probably sort by ID. So these need to be... they need to be I comparable. You're not familiar with C#? What's the read-only word mean? Like, I get the idea, but you have to write to it somehow at some point, just an initialization, or what are the rules around that? That's the rules. The read-only is that you can't reassign things after initialization. So if you have a read-only list, you can add things to the list, but you can't reassign the list, so you can't be like list equals something else. But you can still use the thing. So that's a kind of unique aspect of it there. But if I had a simpler read-only variable, it would be like you can't change this at all. I think for a struct, you should basically always have the struct be read-only, right? You have no idea what I'm writing, but you'll keep me on in the background while you code. I appreciate that, Tort. We'll be getting back into GDScript stuff at some point, because we still use GDScript for everything we have that exists in the scene tree, like anything we're gonna render or anything that has UI stuff. That'll all be done using GDScript. We're off in kind of game simulation land, which I've decided to implement off in C# for reasons. So we're doing something a little bit different for the moment. All right, so component IDs can be sorted. That we do need that. So the composition is going to store the IDs, not the indices. I kind of want to get rid of the component index. Struct here, just so I can clean everything up and I know where everything is. It's a great way to do a refactor. It's just delete something and see everything that it touches. So Godot is const. In GDScript, it'd be like const thingy thing, dictionary. You don't know what a const or a dictionary is? No worries. In GDScript, a dictionary is more like, oh, what even is it? It's not also just called a dictionary. Oh, it is called a dictionary. Is it not? Thought it was. Is it a hash map? I don't know. I'd have to go look at my code. But const, I think const is different because const is like compile time consistent. Yeah. Is that not true? Like you would know what a const value is at compile time, but you don't necessarily know what a read-only value is. It's like immutable. It's like the idea of an immutable thing. for most cases. Like if you have a read-only integer. You don't have you've heard of them, but you don't know what they are yet. Oh, no worries. It's like if you get a thing by looking up another thing. So if I have this like component ID, I can get this like other. If you have one value, you can get another value. Is basically what it is. There's a key and a value, and so it's basically a key. So it's like if you have A, and you want to know B, you plug in A, and it gives you back B, and then you can take that and go do C with it, whatever. So it's a relational data structure. All right, yeah, I think I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to delete component index and then see everywhere that it gets mad about it. So if we register a component, we're going to register it using its ID. I don't like this T component thing. I think we need this part, do we? Yeah. So we'd register the component. We'd add it to some things. So we'd say like component IDs dot add component ID. We'd say component index. We'd say try. Oh, we do this first. Constant my dictionary is read only. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think const and read only mean different things when you're talking about reference types than when you're talking about value types. I think they kind of work differently. So if we've already added this component ID to, then what we're going to do is we're going to say if component IDs dot contains component ID. We actually want to say if component IDs component IDs dot count -1. Oh, well, that doesn't make sense. So if we've already added, if this ID is already key into the index, oh, then we actually want to say if component IDs dot contains that, then we want to do something. You actually want to catch an error. Oh. I want to say if component IDs dot contains that, then we throw. We don't need this E here. A little bit of error handling there. We could have this silently fail to register the component. Actually, I guess you want it to return something, huh? So if it silently fails, it can just return the correct. We don't actually need it to throw. We would just say return. We declare a variable here. We'll say variable component. I could say next indexed. It would be component IDs. I don't want this right now, this get next component ID, because that's not actually what we're doing here. For an archetype, its ID is its index, which is what we're going to do right now, but we might not do that forever. Component IDs is a little different. Are signals just a way of connecting nodes? Essentially, signals are like a way of handling events. So it's a way of letting it's kind of like using what's called like the observer pattern, or you could call it some different things, but it's kind of a way of letting something know that an event is happening without like directly calling some function. So it's just like, hey, this is happening, and then the receiver can decide how and when they want to respond to that signal. Next index. I'm going to say component index. I'm going to say that add. Okay. We'll say this. So add this. If it already contains this, then instead of throwing, we're just going to index of. Does index of return something? Oh, we'll just say if it contains it, we'll just say component index of the component ID. I'll say component IDs dot add. Well, try catch. Okay, so we'll do this. So we'll say otherwise we don't do any of that. This doesn't account. This accounts for failed registrations, but it doesn't account for a collision or a hash collision. So we can account for that down here. And then we would just return component index. So when we register a component, we get an index back. That's kind of a simple way of preventing us from having to do a lookup after we've done this. Thanks, you're just looking through the docs and it said signals. No, yeah, for sure. Signals are kind of weird. They're super powerful when you get used to them. There's some associated things that are good to look at with them, which is like Godot has a phrase called like signal up, call down, which is like if you want to tell something higher in the scene tree than you that something happens, you can signal that up. But if you're this higher up node and you want to tell a node lower down than you to do something, then you call down, which is calling is like calling a function or a callable. And that's like a pretty simple pattern people use. People also like using message buses, which is like they'll have a global variable, like which is called an auto load in Godot. And then people can just, because if you're doing a signal, connecting a signal, you need to know where the thing is that you're trying to connect to in the scene tree. Unless it's a unique node. I'm basically throwing too much information at you, but there's cool stuff there. Keep reading on it, and you'll run into some cool stuff. I actually need to get ready for work, so I probably need to call it here. even though the code is in like a terrible state. I like almost don't want to commit this. Probably won't. I'll probably skip committing this. But yeah, I gotta run to work. We're gonna have a new stream schedule next week, so I'm kind of in between schedules right now. I'm kind of transitioning from one to another, so I can't stream tomorrow or Friday. So it's kind of a really short week. But we're gonna be back next week with a new time and much longer streams. We're gonna be streaming for like 3 to 4 hours instead of what we're doing right now, which is usually just a little over 2. So gives me some time to kind of figure out what I'm doing with this ECS stuff over the next week that I can do off stream. So I'm really hoping we're gonna get this kind of locked in soon, and we're gonna get back to doing gameplay stuff and actually building new features and stuff. Commit to a new temp branch if you're unsure. Yeah, I could do that. Scott with the good practices. Gunning to be our new workflow guru. Yeah, thank you all for watching. It's been a really great day hanging out with y'all. Appreciate everyone coming by. Some new faces. If anyone wants to share their game dev stuff or, you know, keep up with development outside of the stream, we do have a Discord. The link is in my channel information for YouTube, and it's in my About Me area for Twitch. So yeah, if you're interested, it's a small community of devs there, but I'm always excited to see people's progress on things. And either way, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.